we know you grew up in Jersey, born and bred in Jersey. So tell us the story how this Jersey girl got to California and writes the book Restless Devices.
Yeah, well, I grew up in New Jersey. My parents had immigrated from Taiwan and landed in New Jersey, of all places. Grew up going to what I've recently learned is called a Chinese Baptist church. I didn't know that was a term, but I just heard someone on a podcast describe it that way. And I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what my experience was. Chinese Baptist church, ethnic immigrant community. And went to school in Connecticut in college. But once I left for college, I kind of never went back to New Jersey. I was kind of ready to kind of get out.
Leave New Jersey. I get it.
Get out into the world, meet other people. Went to college, joined InterVarsity, and found that to be just really just a really helpful and loving community for me at that time, that helped me grow in my faith. And what was interesting about my time in college was that because of the church background I had, my faith and my academics were completely kind of bifurcated worlds. Like I went to school, and I did the school thing, and then there was like the faith thing, the piety. It was just like a very binary, dualistic existence until I met a grad student who had actually gone to, I think he did his undergrad at Calvin, and we had been going to the same church, and he started explaining to me this idea of the life of the mind, and how that was something that could be pursued as a mode of faithfulness, that Christians could actually do this, or you could take your classes and think about your classes as a Christian, not in a defensive way, right? Which is what I had grown up with, which is sort of like, there's the world, there's the dangerous secular world out there that's going to corrupt you, right? Always defense. But it was this very, what I came to realize was a fairly reformed perspective, right, on the life of the mind and the lordship of everything, right? And so that conversation didn't happen until fairly late in my college years. So I really felt like I was a late bloomer, like by junior and senior year, I was like, wait, I can actually bring this stuff together. Are you kidding me? Right. And so by the time I graduated, I was really hungry, actually. Like I kind of wished I had sort of wasted my years in college, my classes at least, relationally, it was very fruitful and rich. But the intellectual life, I had just started. And so I knew when I left college that I wanted to go to grad school. And I spent a year teaching at an all-girls private school right out of college, teaching American history. And that's actually where some of my thinking about technology started, and I could talk about that later. But I ended up going to L'Abri Fellowship in Southborough, Massachusetts.
I love L'Abri.
For a semester. Had read a little Francis Schaeffer and was like, okay, I got to check this place out. Went there, so rich, so awesome, such great people that helped me hone and figure out, okay, so you want to go to grad school? What do you want to go do? Read Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death for the first time while I was there, was blown away, was like, wow, there's people like writing about media, because I'd started thinking about media. This is going to date me too. It was the year that U2 was doing their Achtung Baby tour. And so there's a lot of stuff about media and reality in that tour's theme. And so I was just all in, like thinking about the impact of media and the way it shapes how we think and our experience of reality. And so anyway, I started applying to grad schools, ended up going to Virginia Well, actually, there was a detour. I had a 1-year stint at Northwestern. Won't go into all those details. Did a comm studies. It was one of those, times in life.
Stint. You
Yeah, it was
describe
a
it.
stint.
Northwestern is described as prison.
No, well, not like that. It was more like I just wasn't there. Well, I got there and I realized I was in the wrong place, basically.
Got it. Okay. Been there, done that. Yeah.
And so, but it was great, like for what it was. I was in a communication studies program, realized I was really not in the right program for what I was interested in. And that was my bad. Like I did not do the proper research and to know what I was really getting into. So anyway, I redirected and ended up at Virginia studying sociology with James Hunter. And so, and that was the perfect place for a lot of different reasons. But what sociology gave me, even though it wasn't directly about media or communication, which is the topic I was interested in, it was the kind of place that was equipping me with language and conceptual framework for thinking about community and identity and thinking about, well, what is it that shapes our conceptions or the meanings that we attribute to those experiences and concepts. It kind of equipped me with that part, right, of the infrastructure, which is what I realized I wanted. That was what I really wanted. And then I could kind of do my own work on the technology and media stuff and reading to kind of piece together, the kind of education I was looking for. And so my husband's also an academic. He's a philosopher. And so when
I bet those are some really fun conversations.
Yeah, all the time. Yes. And we talk sociology and philosophy 24/7, of course. Right. He in his armchair with pipe, and I don't know what the sociologist does. But yeah, so when we came out of grad school, like a lot of other academic couples, we had the two body problem, as they call it, right? Of finding jobs where we could both still be together. So we ended up in Louisiana, of all places, which was not a place I ever thought I would end up in as a Jersey girl from the 1980s. So we went to Louisiana State University, and those were our first jobs. I actually taught at their mass communication journalism school for 7 years, which was actually, I had to retool because it wasn't something I was familiar with being in a professional school setting, but it was an amazing time to be there because it was sort of right in the what are they, the aughts, as the English say, the 2000s, right? The late 2000s, right when all the major media companies, advertising, PR, everyone was realizing we're going digital here. Like we're going digital big time. And social media platforms were really kind of having their day and competing, right, against all these traditional media institutions. And so it was an incredible time to be in a place with professionals, people who understood the industry, who were all kind of grappling with this huge shift in their institutional practices, in their strategies, in all the different sorts of deliverables that they were used to producing. They had to figure out how are we going to, set up a paywall? How are we going to get, like, how do we make money putting out information? So anyway, it was phenomenal. Time to be there. We ended up loving, being in southern Louisiana. It's just like, it's a place, it's a real place, in all the ways that Wendell Berry and everyone else who cares about place would say. It's true people, true culture, with all of its brokenness and dysfunctions, but a true place. And then we had the opportunity to come out here to Westmont. It was an idea that my husband and I were always thinking about. Like, we didn't go to a Christian college in our experience. We had never worked at any sort of Christian institutions before, but we had always wondered what it would be like to teach in a place where we could actually bring our faith with us instead of setting it aside in the classroom and even in our work. So we've been out here. This is our 9th year. And yeah, it's been an experience. It's been wonderful. It's been, I couldn't have written this book without being in a place like this that's so supportive of the kind of work that I wanted to do. So yeah, that's the journey.
It is a journey. How many kids do you have?
Oh yeah, 2 kids,
Okay.
6th grade, 12th grade.